to another episode of the Fanzone podcast, your home for all things Bolton Wanderers, up the Trotters, the Northwest's #1 podcast.
Good evening, ladies and gents. Welcome back to another episode of the Fanzone podcast. We hope you are all having a wonderful evening if you are watching along live, but no matter what time it is, no matter when you're watching this, we hope you are doing well. Bolton Wanderers aren't doing too well. We've got a little bit of a hybrid crossover episode for you this evening. So, of course, we couldn't make the preview immediately after the Birmingham game, but we are back. Business is resuming as normal. We are here. We've got a Birmingham post-match podcast for you, followed by a Peterborough United preview show. And we're looking forward to it. We're giving you the best of both worlds all in one episode. Of course, this evening's post-match episode is brought to you by us here at the Fanzone podcast and kindly sponsored by Eco Warm Windows, the place to go for all of your windows and doors services. If you want to find out more about them, then you can do over on our website, www.thefanzonepod.co.uk. But without further ado, we'll get stuck into this evening's episode. It is a pleasure to have you all with us. You are, of course, joined this evening by myself and new Ben. How are you doing this evening, mate?
Yeah, I'm all good. Got over last night a bit, so not last night, the night before. Yeah, so looking forward to Saturday now.
Yes, that's. I think that's the only thing we can do. But to all of you in the chat, Leslie, David, Radix, Lectai, Kelly, Josh, very warm welcome to you all. It's been a little while since we've been with you. But we're back, so let's get stuck into our post-match reactions, shall we? If we have to. Do we have to?
Yeah, I guess we do.
I mean, it's only right, isn't it? For some reason, the mid-roll isn't where it should be, but I found it now, so we'll get stuck into our post-match reactions. Who else did the last one? Who did it? Because all the mid rolls have shifted about from where they should be. I couldn't find my buttons. Someone's been tinkering. But Birmingham post match. Let's have it. Chat, over to you. You can have your say. Get your comments in. What went wrong, Ben? You can whilst the chat's comments are coming in, give us your thoughts on it.
Yeah, look, I mean, it went how a lot of us were expecting it to go, to be honest. I mean, they're the best team in the league. They're probably going to do that to basically every team at home this season. The first half was very frustrating because you'd obviously changed the way we approach the game. Normally, big games, you kind of go for it and try and attack, whereas we went for it to try and pack the midfield. Look, whether you think Arfield should have played or Matete or whatever, we were kind of limited with the options we had in midfield. That was, if we were going to pack the midfield, that's who was going to play. And we conceded after 2 minutes from on their behalf, it's a wonder goal from the edge of the box, but from our behalf, it was a couple of players missing tackles in midfield and the defence, and then a cross came in. Like an all right defensive header out, and then it just drops him at the edge of the box, kind of no pressure, and then that's the game plan out the window after 2 minutes in the first half. The plan was, he said it, and I think we all kind of, when we saw the team sheet, we all thought, right, try and stay in the game up until about 60 minutes, and we can throw the attackers on like we did, and create a couple of chances and try and nick something, which, look, you can see it's too negative. But we've set up the opposite over the last couple of years in big games, and it's not kind of worked out for different reasons. So I get why he's trying to do something different, but I mean, conceding after 2 minutes was just a killer. And then obviously, look, they probably should have been 2 or 3 goals ahead. May had a couple of chances. Ethan Laird had a good chance, and Southland made a couple of good saves. They probably should have been 2 or 3 goals ahead by the time McAtee's chance came around. But when his chance did come around, it was still 1-0 with 10 minutes to go. And look, I know no one's going to want to hear this, but if he scores that, it's 1-1 and we're celebrating a decent point. But he didn't. And then 2 minutes later, we concede a stupid penalty, which kills the game off. Look, they thoroughly deserve to win. I've no complaints about them winning, which I don't usually have for big games. But yeah, frustrating, but one that we kind of didn't really expect much from anyway. But yeah,
it's a frustrating one because I think looking at it, trying to be sort of trying to be not too biased towards any agendas. I think if we come away with a point there or we get a result, everyone's going, it was a great idea to set up like that. It worked for us, blah, blah, blah. But if we'd have gone all guns blazing and we'd have tried to go at them and we'd have got absolutely spanked 3-0, which is very likely, then, people looking and going, why have you tried going all out at Birmingham away? Why have you done it? So I don't think there was really much he could have done to win those over that were already swinging out of favour. And I think for me, that is now the biggest concern, whether he's still got believers or whether he's got, doubters. I think the vast quantity of fans that are now turning against him, it doesn't feel like there's a way back for them. And I think you're going to touch on it in fan focus. But once you've lost that many fans and there isn't a way back, what's the point in even trying, if that makes sense? David said it there, Everett had a plan which did not work. If it does work, we're all having a different conversation and people are going, you know what, maybe it gets a little bit longer, but it's just I think
it's tough, isn't it? Because as you said, we could have gone out and attacked, and look, we could have gone a few teams have gone 1-0 up against them this season early on in the first kind of 10-15 minutes. Here's Jake right on cue. Lincoln did it. I think they scored in the first minute. And Peterborough went 2-0 up there. And someone else went 1-0 up early. And then gradually throughout the game, they wore them down and tired them out and ended up winning. So that might have just happened anyway. You know what I mean? If we'd have gone out, say if we'd gone 1-0 up after 10 minutes and pressed the hell out of them in the first half, I'd imagine we would have got knackered by the second half and they would have picked us off anyway. So it's one of them. It's kind of a lose-lose situation. Look, if many teams go to Birmingham away this season to pick up points, I'll be very impressed. I mean, Reading did it first day of the season, but that's first day of the season. Kind of form goes out the window there, really. But look, I mean, I think we just got to move past it. The next 3 games are the big ones. We're going to move on to that. But the next 3 games are against teams that are in and around us and just above us. So they're the real tests.
It is indeed. I think it's been make or break for quite a while now for some people, but I think this next 3 really does define where we go. Brad's comment, I mean, it kind of sums up how I'm feeling. I'm really in 2 minds about it, but it's time to move him on, he says. When milk goes stale in the fridge, you throw it out, and that's what Everett is like. And it does kind of feel that, no matter what he does, there is such a large portion of the fan base that feel that way. What can it's going to take some sort of a miracle to turn it around, and it can't be that long before that that angst and that feeling amongst the fans seeps into either the players or the staff, or it can't really carry on like that. But it's wasn't a great game, I think is the summary. It wasn't great. We've had a comment from a Blues fan. He said he expected us to be a bit brave. Manager set you up to fail. I mean, we're class, but it was made so much easier by your manager's negative attitude, which is fair enough. You can't really argue with that. Brad said Ben's still backing him is baffling. What does he say? You're going to have to specify which one.
I think it's me. Yeah.
I'm going to assume it's you.
No, what it is just because, I mean, I backed him after the Huddersfield game and said, basically, the next 5 games are very winnable. We have to win, 4 of them. We won 4 of them, drew the other. And then Birmingham away, he was kind of like look, I hate to say it because people are going to come out and saying, well, Bolton wonders we should go into every game. I'm saying people, I mean Colin. We should go into every game expecting to win. But look, Birmingham away is the hardest game of the season, and not many teams are going to go there and take points. Look, we lost. We didn't play very well. It is what it is. The next 3 games are the games where it's going to define us. This is it. I'm not saying it's good now. I'm not saying it's been good enough, but I'm expecting better from here for the next 3 games. If it's not better, I'll hold my hands up and say, look, it's probably time to move on.
Yeah, that's exactly about that. I mean, I've been in that, perhaps not as avidly backing him as you are, at least not as vocally. But I'm very much in that mindset now that these next 3 have to be, Macaulay has summed it up perfectly. I'm still backing him as well because I don't see what getting rid of him achieves, but who comes in? That's one of my biggest worries. I think the only one that stands out for me at the minute is Schumacher. That's about it. I can't see what getting rid of him would achieve. Apart from setting us back a little bit further, it also raises the issue of, if we bring someone else and it does go horribly wrong, if you look at the situation with players out of contract at the end of the season, it raises a whole lot of questions on where on earth do we go from there. But these next three, if these next three don't go the way, I think we have to look elsewhere. I don't think we have much of an option, because ultimately those players that are out of contract are likely only to extend their stay with us if promotion is on the cards, or I think that's the end of it. So on that note, we'll move over to a section that we have missed out previously because it hasn't had a sponsor. However, now that it's got a sponsor, we have a contractual obligation to run this no matter how much it might hurt. So it's your Fanzone man of the match. Do you wanna go first, Ben?
Yeah, I am the resident optimist, so I think it's only right. I mean, yeah, first half, basically, I don't think anyone in front of the defence played well for obvious reasons. And then second half, McAtee came on and looked lively, but obviously missed a big chance. I would say defensively, in terms of purely just in the box defensively, clearing your lines, getting in front of attackers, I thought Johnston played well, and I thought Dacres-Cogley actually did okay against Keshi Anderson, who's a decent winger at this level, just gone past, goes past pace for fun. I mean, as soon as Dacres-Cogley came off, he went past Forrester and won a penalty. So yeah. I think Dacres-Cogley did all right. And obviously Southwood, he kept us in it with a couple of big saves. And if we did get something out of that game, it would have, McAtee would have got the headlines, but it would have been because Southwood kept us in it. So it's nice to be saying that about a sub-keeper, because in the past couple of years, as soon as our first keeper's gone down, it's kind of been like, oh crap, we've got to try and just ride the wave and see what happens. But Southwood's he was good. He was probably our best player on Tuesday, and he's been okay the last couple of games. So I'm actually quite confident going into games without Baxter at the minute. So yeah, to me it is Luke Southwood.
Yep, I agree with that. I think if, like you said, if we did come away with anything, Jim summed it up, it would have been because Southwood gave us that platform to do so. Made a couple of big saves. I don't think there was much he could have done about the first one. There was the only one. There was first one. I mean, the penalty, it's a lottery in it. He had a good record in the cup, but it can go either way. But he was a little bit flat-footed, I felt. But there was lots of bodies in front of him. He probably had no idea that the fellow was about to hit it. Never mind, get it on target and in the way that he did. So, But yeah, if we were to come away with anything from that game, I think it would have been because of Southwood. So for me as well, he gets the man of the match vote. And there's been actually quite a few shouts for him as well. Jordan, David, a Blues fan, has actually given Luke Southwood our man of the match award as well. Thank you for tuning in. We do appreciate it. It's not often we get away fans that come and have a watch, but we do appreciate it all the same. Jim has gone for Southwood as well. We've had one for George Johnston. But yeah, your Fanzone man of the match in what was a disappointing outing is Luke Southwood. And I'm not entirely sure whether congratulations are in order, but you've won. Well done.
Hello everybody, welcome back to Get Stat On with the Stat Man, Wandering Red 7. Please do chuck me a follow if you haven't already. A little bit of plug for myself, why not? It'd be rude not to. This segment is of course sponsored by Jen Louise Salmon. Thank you very much for that. I'm sure you know all about it now because you obviously listen so much during my segment. But if you're buying a gaff, give her a bell is the short answer. But let's move on from the game on weekend day, because that wasn't the best. But you've got another big game, and it only is really a big game because of what happened last week. Peterborough on Saturday. I hope I've got that right. Do not quote me on the date, but it is this weekend, I know that for sure. Yeah, you've probably heard enough about last game now, so we'll just completely move on from that. And we'll look ahead to Peterborough. They've only won 2 of the last 5. However, that does include an absolute demolition job on the Tangerines Blackpool 5-1 on Tuesday. I mean, that is pretty outrageous. They are 12th with 18 points, and they've only picked up 7 points this season away from home in their 6 games. So, that's not great. And, of course, you are playing them at the tough sheet. So this could be interesting, to say the least. They have scored 25 goals this season, which is pretty bloody good, to be fair. Puts them 3rd in the league. That is only from 19.8 XG as well. So that is quite a sustainable level of overperforming, but it is still overperforming. So there could be a point where they just can't hit barn door again. But I say it probably won't be against you, knowing your luck, of course. Goals are not their problem, though, at all. It's conceding goals, which is their problem. Because they concede 1.9 goals per game, which is actually the exact same as what they score. So that is pretty poor. Conceding nearly 2 a game is not good at all. So definitely something to capitalise on there. Get your shots off is what I'd say. They like to have the ball, 57.1% on average. So this could be an interesting debate as for who has the ball and who doesn't have the ball. Could be quite even. We shall see. They do not play the ball long at all. So my advice would be push your centre-backs past the halfway line, even higher, and literally get everyone by your keeper in their half and put on the highest press you've ever seen. You definitely didn't do that last game. So first screenshot is here. This is the average positions from the game against Birmingham, and you can just see how deep that defence is. I mean, Santos and the other centre-backs are just so deep that you've really got no chance of getting up the pitch at all. And that is probably because it was Birmingham. And I even did advise that, if you remember the preview from last time. But you shouldn't be doing that in this game. And to show that, we're going to go to the tactics board, which should be on your screen in 3 seconds because I forgot to press record. It should be on your screen now, hopefully. So what we've got here is Peterborough in blue and obviously you in white. I'm expecting this formation. I doubt it'll be similar to what you did against Birmingham, but you never know, of course. So this isn't... I've not set up anything right now. My advice... Well, what needs to happen is keeper, whoever it is, I'm assuming Southall still be in goal. Southwood. Oh, I got his name wrong. He needs to be up here when you've got the ball so he can sweep. And that means all your defenders can step up onto the halfway line. This gives the wing-backs licence to get onto their full-backs. The centre-mids can push forward onto their defensive midfielders. And the number 10, whoever it may be in this game, has a lot... Well, yeah, I'd play an out-and-out number 10 in this game. That is one thing for sure. But they could have a lot more freedom, and they could actually be the spare man in a lot of cases, breaking him in between their centre-backs. Or you may even go back to the structure that we saw at the start of the season with 2 number 10s and try and completely overload their centre-backs. But even if you do lose the ball, say, up here, you have that many people that far forward already. And because they don't play long balls, their wingers won't be making the run, or the striker won't be making the run. So what they'll end up doing is either they'll end up just giving you the ball back, kicking out for a throw, or they'll kick it long and keeper should be able to sweep it up easy enough and you retain possession. Of course, that only works well in hindsight. It could easily go wrong, but that would be my advice for the game on the weekend. I would say good luck, because this season it's been a complete mixed bag. But no, enjoy the rest of the podcast, and thank you very much.
Wonderful, as always, from our resident statman. Wonderful. Never fails to amuse me when he does his stat previews. And as of course, kindly sponsored by Jenna Louise Salmon. And as statman wonderfully put, if you're buying a gaff, give her a bell. That's exactly what I'm sure our sponsorship agreement says. If you want a gaff, give her a bell. Just nothing more to be said on that one. What are you expecting from from Peterborough United, though? It's for me, it's absolutely vital. I think we have to get 3 points. What about you, though?
Yeah, I totally agree. As you touched on, their away record is not as good as their home record. They score a lot of goals. They concede, even more on the road. There's been 50 goals in their 13 games, 35 in our 11. So I think if you're, I think a 0-0 is not going to be on the cards. Hopefully, yeah, 5-4 either way. Jim says I would not be surprised. But yeah, I think we're going to set up basically complete opposite as we did on Tuesday night against Birmingham. We're going to look to dominate the ball. If we don't, that's fine, because they're going to try and do the same, and we'll hit him on the counter like we kind of did against Reading, did against Crawley as well. I think it'll be back to the 5-2-1-2 as well. Probably McAtee in the 10. Dempsey's injured, isn't he? So I'd imagine it's Sheehan and Matete in midfield. That's basically all we've got now at the minute, isn't it? And yeah, look, back to attacking. It's got to be.
Yep, I think you're absolutely right on that. There's not really much more I've got to add to that. It's got to be 3 points. Selection, I think, will be a tough one, but it's got to be 3 points. And on that note, we'll move on to our Fanzone fan focus. Now, Ben, I believe you've got some content lined up for us, so fire away.
Yeah, it was a quick turnaround from the game. Well, when we decided we're actually going to do a post-match as well as the preview today. So I've not actually got anything from any fans watching. I do apologise. I've got something for myself instead, which I just put out a poll before, basically saying, if Everett was to remain for the next 6 league games, how many points do you think we'll get? And those 6 league games are Peterborough at home, Stevenage away, Stockport away, Blackpool at home, Cambridge away, and Mansfield at home. And then I asked what you predicted, how many points you predicted you think we'd get. Is that enough for you to believe Everett is a man to take us forward? If not, how many more points do we need to get than you expect? Or no, you just flat out won't be convinced, even if we win all 6. And yeah, the results were kind of interesting. 17% said 0-4. I'll be very, very, very surprised if that happens. 39%, which was the most, said 5-9, which I think would be disappointing. 33% said 10-14, which I think is more realistic. And 11% of optimists, 15-18. And I can't vote on my own poll, so that's not just me. But I think more interesting was the follow-up, which when I said, will that be enough to convince you that Everett's the right man for the job? 20% said yeah. So I imagine that 20% is from the ones that said 10-14 or 15-18 points. 34% said no. Basically, we could need more points to convince me. But 46% said no, I can't be convinced. And that's the sticking point, really, isn't it? It's, as we said before, once... that's not the majority, it's 46%, but once nearly half, and, there was only, I think, 100 votes on that poll, so it's not representative of the whole fan base, but once a big portion of the fan base goes and basically says, no matter what happens, I'm not going to believe again.
There was 178 votes on that poll, almost 200 people.
There you go. Yeah, so when there's that many people that are already saying, basically, we could win the next 6 5-0, and I'd still not believe he's the right man for the job. One, I think that's a bit unfair. But 2, look, the fans' opinion matter. And if half of the fans are basically going, doesn't matter what happens, I won't believe, is it time to just move on anyway? Because, look, the way I think of it in my head is, I get why they stuck with him. Because, after the Huddersfield game, they backed him. We had then 5 games against relegation level teams, basically. We couldn't really read too much into that. We played well. That was enough to keep his job short term. Then 1 game away at the best team in the league. Whatever happens, happens. And then, as I said, these next 6 are four of them against. Well, we've got Mansfield and Stockport, who are both at a really good start to the season, and then Peterborough, Blackpool, and Stevenage, who pre-season probably thought they'd be up there. So these are the games. These are the games that are really going to test us. I know I've backed him, and I'll start again. Basically, I think if they thought he was all right for the job after Huddersfield, I don't think anything has been shown since that had changed their mind, because we beat the teams we should have beaten, apart from Shrewsbury. But you lose, you don't win one of the 5 games. It's not the end of the world. And then we didn't win yesterday. We didn't win on Tuesday. I think if we won on Tuesday, it would have been a massive confidence boost for most of the fan base, but it didn't happen. But yeah, the record since the performance review, we're calling it, has been fine, has been good enough. It's whether it will be the next part of the season, because after these 6 games, it'd be 17 games gone. If we carry on with the same points per game, we'll be on 27, 28 points, which I did the maths before, and the automatics is around 90 points. If we want to hit 90 points, that leaves us having to hit 2.2 points a game for the rest of the season, which, when for the first 17 games of the season, if we're hitting 1.6, 1.7, is quite unlikely. 2.2 points per game is basically the best team in the league from that point to the rest of the season. So at that point, I think it is time to go, look, we've given the easier games to show you can still beat them. You did it. Gave you a tough game, didn't manage to do it, and you've gave you some in the middle games. And if he doesn't manage to get through these, that's where it falls down. Look, I think these are basically his 6 biggest games, if he gets all 6, of being a Bolton manager.
Yeah,
any thoughts on
I
that?
think you're absolutely right. No, I think you're right. Like I said, the relegation fodder that we've played and beat, I don't even think we looked overly impressive against many of them. Northampton, we looked all right, but then we gave away silly goals towards the end of that game, and I don't think we really blew anyone away, which was a little bit frustrating, and the Shrewsbury was a little bit frustrating, but we picked up points, and that's what matters. So if the performance levels increase and we see, again, we're still picking up points in these next 6, then yes, maybe, it's a different conversation. But I think even 3, if we're not looking like we're any closer to any solution or any upturning performances, then I think it might be time to call it. Because I don't see a way back, in all honesty. But there we have it. That's your Birmingham post match for you. We hope you enjoyed that section of this evening's show. It's been a busy one. You've all tuned in the chat, and we hope you will all follow us over into the preview show, which is coming right up. But yeah, thank you all for joining us in this evening's post-match episode, of course, as mentioned, brought to you by EcoWarm Windows, the great people over there. Like I said before, if you want to find out more about them, then head over to our website and you can find out about all of our sponsors. But yeah, let's head on over and we'll do our preview show for a very, 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 very important game against Peterborough United.
Welcome to another episode of the Fanzone podcast, your home for all things Bolton Wanderers, up the Trotters, the Northwest's #1 podcast.
So the preview show returns, brought to you by Loving My Socials. It is an absolute pleasure to have you all with us. Thank you all for joining and carrying through from the Birmingham post-match. But we look ahead now to Peterborough United. Very, very important game for the Wanderers at home, on home soil. Hopefully the chance to have a little bit of a rebound from what was a poor game against Birmingham and continue our good run of form that we picked up, like we mentioned, against that run of teams. And it is an opportunity. I think that's how we have to see it. It's not it's not dead set that we're going to lose and Everton will go. I think it still has to be an opportunity to pick up points, to regain confidence, to build confidence amongst the fans. I think if we go in expecting anything other than that, then it, A, won't be a very nice atmosphere, but B, don't think it's very helpful either. But yeah, Peterborough, how are you feeling, Ben?
Yeah, as I said, like I'm confident. I'm always confident going to home games, and with their away record, makes me feel a bit better. Yeah, look, as we said, it's a must-win game. We need to start beating the teams around us and the teams above us if we need to move up. Look, gone are the times where we go, oh, it's a tough game, take a point here, really, because yeah, the bad start we've had, we need to make up ground. And yeah, look, we've got a couple of injuries. Tomo being out is a bit annoying. I will get onto the injury list later, but jumping the gun a bit. But yeah, look, there's not much more to be said. It's a massive game, and I think someone said in the chat before, if we lose on Saturday, I think he's gone. I wouldn't really be surprised, to be honest.
No, me neither. We will get stuck into our first segment. We are waiting for our guest, eagerly anticipated. We'll be hopefully joined by the guys over at the Yellow Block, the podcast. But just until then, we're going to touch on their season so far. And although we don't know too much about it, as much as I guess we sure would, we'll do what we can. Just in time. We've got Dan with us from the Yellow Block. How are you this evening, Dan?
Hi, chaps. Yeah, not too bad at all. Thanks yourselves.
Yeah, not too bad. Thank you. Not too bad. This segment is the season so far segment where we take a look at both teams' seasons so far. We've just done our Birmingham post-match, so it's probably not really worth doing much on the Wanderers front because we've covered quite a bit already. But just talk to us so far. Obviously, Peterborough United sit 12th in the table, 1 point ahead of the Wanderers, and you know you've picked up that extra point from a draw. You've had an okay start to the season, a few surprising defeats in there. I must admit, I looked at some of them. Wickham, I don't think many people expected Wickham to be where they are or how they have been this season. But one I was surprised at, especially given since their recent form, is a 3-0 loss to Wigan on the road, which was a cause for concern, I'm sure, amongst your fans. But just talk to us a bit about how your season started.
Yeah, I mean, realistically, we're disappointed as a fan base. You know, it was never going to be easy coming into the season, having lost what was essentially our entire back four. Obviously, Harrison Burrows, Ronnie Edwards, both getting big money moves to bigger and better things, and we lost Josh Knight on a free. So you know, they're all integral parts of that back line. Yes, we got Katongo back on a loan from Man City, but he's injured. So you know, we've got a new defence entirely, most of which are teenagers. So there was a sense of realism going into the season that, you know, possibly we weren't going to be as fantastic. But I mean, certainly for me personally, and I know for a lot of the Posh fans that I speak to, you know, it's been very disappointing. Not only are we conceding every single game, and it has been every game, we're yet to keep a league clean sheet. We just seem to be missing the goal scoring acumen that we've had for so long. You know, yes, there's been a few games where we've gone and scored plenty. You know, most recently Blackpool, for example. But you mentioned it there. You know, 3-0 away to Wigan. You know, it's there's been a few results like that have been absolutely woeful and terrible games of football to watch. And you know, while as a Posh fan, I love the Vindaloo style of football that you know, we'll score one more than you, we can concede 10, but we'll score 11. It's fine. There is a point where you start to look at your team and think, oh God, no, this isn't going to end well for us, is it?
I must admit that is music to my ears, because I think we are in dire need of 3 points on Saturday. So with any luck, we can have a similar result to some of those that you mentioned that were dreadful. And it might just give us the kick up the backside that we need to get our season really started. Like I said, there's the Wanderers season. It's not been great. We've both covered it. So I don't think there's much point in divulging much more in that. It's really not been great, apparently, for both of us. So on that note, we will head over to our injury update, which is an ever-growing list and becoming even more of a problem than we thought it could be. Well, ladies, gents, I hope you're not up to anything. How long have you got? Because this list is getting longer by the week. It started off with pre-season. We were like, yeah, got a couple of players out. They'll be back soon, though. Hopefully nothing to worry about. Then it got to a little bit further into the season, maybe after 5 games, and it was like, oh dear, there's a couple out missing. And that's not ideal with, Forrester falling downstairs and seeing himself out again. But then we were like, okay, people are coming back, and all of a sudden, everyone's disappeared again, and we're down to the bare bones, at least in midfield anyway. The latest, Kyle Dempsey will be out for a little while, it's believed, with a knock that he picked up against Birmingham. I don't think we've had any official update on the extent of that, but I don't think anyone is particularly happy. Owen Toll, I think, still needs to be cleared, but could be in with a chance to play at the weekend. Nathan Baxter, we've still not had any official update on him either. He could be back, but I think it's been kept pretty hush-hush. Gethin Jones still won't be available. George Thomason still won't be available. Mendes Gomez, I don't think, will be available, although he is edging closer to a return. It's just getting a little bit boring now, isn't it, Ben?
Yeah, it is. As you said, probably 4 or 5 weeks ago, we were saying, oh, look, we're getting players back now, and we're actually getting a bit of a clear injury list. But yeah, it kind of all hits at once, doesn't it? I mean, I don't know what's going on with Baxter. He seems to, I know he's only picked up 2 injuries for us, but he picked up injuries that seem like he's not going to be out for a while. And then every week you're waiting, oh, is he going to be back this week? No, he's missing again. And I think there was an update today saying it is going to be Southwood at the weekend. I'm pretty sure I saw it today. So yeah, look, it looks like Baxter's out for a little longer than first thought again, but it is frustrating. But look, I tweeted about this before, saying kind of the reason we crumbled towards the end of last year was partly because of the injuries, and we didn't have the squad to cope with it. Now we do, basically. So it's not really being used as an excuse anymore, in my opinion.
That's fair enough. That's a good point. The reason we spent that much money and the reason we invested so much in players in the summer was to have that squad depth and that little bit of extra talent available to us. What about in the Peterborough United camp, though? What's the injury front looking like for you? Obviously, you mentioned there the young lad on loan from City is out, but what's it looking like elsewhere?
To be honest, I don't think we've had much more luck than you guys. So we signed a replacement left back for Harrison Burrows, obviously having got his move to Sheffield United. Rio Adebisi from, I believe it was Crewe, gets injured first session, out for 5 months. Nice. So that was fantastic. Good start. Katongo out. We signed Sissoko from City before we sealed Katongo. He got injured first game. Looked great for 20 minutes. I'll give him that. He looked a great player. Not that we'll see again. And then it's just been, more of the same. I mean, our midfield has been a bit chop and change because Ciprianu's picked up a knock and was injured coming into the season as well. So I think he managed to get 3 games under his belt before getting crocked again. So Hector the Protector is protecting nothing but the bench, unfortunately, at the moment. Up top, we've had a bit of a better start. Our top 3 are fit and firing. But Joel Randall, I'm sure you guys are familiar with. Not necessarily injured, but had a bit of a falling out, shall we say, with Fergie at the start of the season. Bit of the hairdryer treatment. He's back in the squad now. But yeah, it's just, it's nice to hear other teams talk about depth being a problem, and you've managed to sort it in the off season. I wish we could. It seems to be a persistent problem for Peterborough that we have no squad depth. We rely on the children far too much. It's becoming, should we say, tiring?
Yeah, I mean, last season, whenever I seem to look at your starting 11, I was always like, wow, like, that might be the best starting 11 in the league. And if you could keep everyone fit, then you have a real chance. But then, as soon as a couple of injuries hit, you're right, it's down to the kids. And look, that's the way your club's set up to bring through the young players. And I mean, it works bringing value to them. But yeah, you're right. I bet it is frustrating. And just on the Joel Randall thing, has anything kind of been publicized about that? Because it seemed like a really strange scenario. Apparently, we were in from in the summer, and Dara came out and denied, was it a bit of 2 million for him? Which I mean, I'd be surprised if we put that in for him. I think he's a good player, but yeah, 2 million is quite steep. And then he signed a new contract. All's rosy, and you're gonna head on and ride off into the sunset, and he's gonna be one of your players.
Yeah.
After 5 or 6 games, he's out the squad. So how does that happen so quickly?
Yeah, so it's all one and the same story, unfortunately. So obviously, coming into the summer, we knew we were going to lose a good majority of the squad. Given the fact that we missed out on the playoff final again. We'll not talk about that, thanks, lads. So we were expecting to lose players. Now, losing the entire back four was not quite expected. I think we knew we were going to lose Harrison. We knew we were going to lose Ronnie Edwards. Yeah. We expected to keep Josh Knight. I think his contract was expiring, but we didn't manage to get it over the line. And so I think the chairman took the stance that we've lost so many key starters already. Ephraim Mason-Clark has also already gone. We sold him in January and managed to get him back on loan. We cannot lose another. So I think he put his foot down on the Randall bid from Bolton. Now, I don't think it was high as 2 million. I think the things that I read in the local news was just over 1 million. But that's about what we paid for him a couple of years ago, to be honest. So I'm not overly shocked that we didn't accept it. Look, he was supposed to sign that contract at the start of the summer. You guys came in for him. There was interest elsewhere. He got unsettled. Maybe trying to ask for more money. Who knows? A lot of things happen in the background of clubs. You never really get the full sense, do you? But certainly from the fans' perspective and what we've been sort of fed by the media outlets, which are inevitably fed by the club, is that there was a falling out on his attitude in training and his attitude towards, the club and the team mentality. Maybe he got the sense that he was bigger than the club and wanted that move. And because of that, Fergie put his foot down and said, look, your head's not in the right space. You're sitting out. Now, I don't know whether the media has made a meal out of it, whether it's a lot bigger than it's been presented to be to the outside world. It certainly seems to be the case. I think the chairman came out and said as much. It's a whole lot's been made out of nothing, mountain out of a molehill and all that jazz. But again, there's an element maybe of protecting his investment there, wanting you guys to come in and other clubs to come in January and bid higher and potentially steal him away. So, I guess we'll never really know the ins and outs unless there's a tell-all. Given that we're in League One, I don't think anyone's buying that book. Call me a cynic, but I don't think that's happening. So, look, he's fit and firing now. He's scoring again. He got 2 goals and an assist against Blackpool, which they're not exactly pushovers, despite the last couple of results. So, look, if he continues to perform, I could care about his attitude. He could be the most arrogant person in the world, and by all accounts, he actually might be. I don't care. He's on the pitch. He's scoring goals. He's assisting goals. He's creating. Fantastic. Bring me more of it.
Yeah, it's the arrogance with players that don't perform on the pitch that are the worst ones. I remember when we had Marcus Maddison, who was that exact type of player.
Well, funny you say that because we had him as well.
Yeah.
You did.
We know all about him.
Exactly what made me think of it. And we were expecting this, showboating, this arrogance that was going to rifle goals in. And he turned up with his Fendi headband, and it's safe to say he didn't really set the world alight, I don't think. But there you have it. It happens with some players. But for any of you away fans listening, watching, tuning in, wherever you may be, we'll bring to you our pub watch segment, which for those of you who don't know, is where can you get your hands on some ale, essentially, in its simplest form, That's what it is. So, for those of you making the trip to the Tough Sheet Community Stadium in the away end, your go-to designated pub will be the Beehive. That is the one that everybody goes to. It's the traditional away pub. But that being said, I think most places on Middlebrook are relatively okay with away fans. I don't think there's usually never any trouble. So if you fancy some food or drink, then Middlebrook has an array of options. But the Beehive is your designated away pub. Will you be making the trip down, Dan?
Yeah, well, I'm actually local, so it's only down the road for me, fortunately enough.
Very good.
Do you know how many others are joining you?
Well, I don't know about the entire fan base. I think we've probably sold like 800, but just in my cohort, there's just a couple. So
very good, very good. But yeah, there you have it. There's the pub watch segment. If you want to get your hands on some ale, then there are the places to go. But we'll round off this evening's episode with our What's the Score? This segment, of course, are score predictions, and same rules apply as always. Those of you watching along at home live, get your comments in. All we've had so far is we need to win, and we absolutely do. Dan, guess first. We'll hand over to you. What's your score predictions ahead of Saturday?
Look, I'd love to say this is our first league clean sheet of the season, but we can't defend for toffee. So I think it's going to be a high-scoring affair. I don't think it's going to be similar to last year when it was a bit of a boring affair in the second half. I'm going to go 3-3, and I think it's going to be a tasty game, but hopefully no red cards.
Yeah, Ben, what about you?
Yeah. Repeat of the away game, last game of the season. It's strange, really, because I mean, us and Peterborough over the last couple of years have always been high-scoring teams, but our home games against you have been pretty dull. But I think the one couple of years ago was 1-0. Dapo scored near the end. It was kind of a really drab 0-0, and then Affalion got a deflected shot from about 30 yards, pinged in near the end, and then obviously. Last season, that was the 1-1 where Jones got sent off, if I do recall correctly.
Yeah, you got sent off, we scored, and then you went immediately the other side and scored again.
Yeah, just before our time, wasn't it? And honestly, I don't know how we held on for a point that game. I think Burrows hit the post like 3 times or something like that. And yeah, it was mad. But yeah, it's been not as high scoring as the away games. I don't think you want to be reminded of the 5-0 a couple of seasons ago. But I have done. But yeah, I looked before and there's been 50 goals in your 13 games. There's been 35 in our 11. So 85 goals in 24 games is ridiculous. Ridiculous. If it's anything less than 3 goals on Saturday, I'll be very surprised. And look, it's no surprise really. Some of the best attackers in the division, Kwame Poku's probably been the best attacker in the division this season. He's probably the next one off the line, isn't he, to go for a load of money in the summer? Hate to say it. Malik Mullishills looks good on the wing. I didn't think we'd see him on the wing. And obviously Joe Randall's back scoring. Ricky J. Jones is still a decent little threat. Look, there's going to be goals in it. I'm going to go. I don't think it's going to be a clean sheet for us either. Surprise. I'm going to go 3-2 us.
I've gone for the exact same. I think it'll be 3-2 to the Wanderers. Slightly optimistic. I think my head is telling me to go for 3-3 as a more realistic approach. But yeah, fingers crossed 3-2 and we can come away with 3 points.
Do you know what this reminds me of, Ben? Me and you with the Wrexham preview. I think we were going into saying, we're both going to come out attacking. I think we both said 3-2 and I think he said 3-3, and then it was 0-0. So
yeah,
what do we know?
0-0 written all over it. You just know it now. Seems to be our luck when we predict high-scoring games on the preview show. But there you have it. That is the end of the preview show. Thank you all very, very much for joining us. It has been a pleasure. And a massive thank you to Dan from the Yellow Block for joining us. We appreciate it.
No problem at all. Thanks for having us, Daz.
If you want to find out more about the Yellow Block or go and check them out, then if you check the link in the description, that'll take you over to their Twitter page and you can see everything you need to know about them over there. But thank you very much for joining us. That is the end of the preview show. We'll see you in the next one for what I predict will be a tasty post-match podcast on Sunday. See you then.